Welcome to the Anxiety Slayer podcast. I'm Shan Vanderleek here with my good friend and co host, Ananga Sivir. We've been creating podcasts for our listeners now since 2009. Before we begin, we'd like to give a shout out to a few of our new patrons, Cindy, Jay, and Leah, for supporting our work on Patreon. Become an Anxiety Slayer patron and unlock a community of support, guidance, and inner calm, plus more than 200 downloads. You can join today at patreon.com/anxietyslayer. Welcome back, Ananga.
Hey, Shan.
This week, we'll be sharing some ways to care for yourself when you feel anxiety building. If you can practice one or two of these tips every day, you'll find that your anxiety begins to settle and anxiety attacks are less likely because you have a practice that can stop anxiety in its tracks.
Something we shared some years ago that I think is worth mentioning again, is very helpful, is the example of anxiety being like a pot that's simmering away on a stove. And if the heat comes up more, the pot starts to boil and boil over. And that's like an anxiety attack. So anything we can do to turn down the heat on anxiety, it serves us so well with general anxiety and reducing the potential of it escalating into a really uncomfortable episode. So everything we're sharing today is helpful for calming general anxiety and reducing the risk of it peaking over into a really unpleasant experience.
And one of the easiest ways you can calm anxiety is to use your breath and gradually calm your mind by breathing deeply and lengthening your outgoing breaths. We've talked about the long exhale breathing practice before, and it truly is my go-to breathing practice when I need to settle down, when I feel that heat kicking up, like you mentioned.
What tends to happen when we're anxious is we tend to breathe rapidly and shallowly. So our shoulders come up and we find that we're breathing in quickly, and slowing our breath and lengthening our exhalation corrects that. It has a similar effect to breathing into a paper bag. That used to be the advice many years ago. Breathe into a bag to balance out the ratio of oxygen to carbon dioxide in our blood. But this works the same way, but it has the added benefit of not having to do something so obvious or carry a bag with you. And it's very calming to the mind. It slows your heart rate, helps you feel more relaxed, more in control. It sends a message to our nervous system. Okay, I've got this. I've noticed that anxiety is escalating and I've got it. And we can de-escalate just by focusing on our exhalation and making it long and smooth.
And I'd like to walk through the long exhale breathing practice. I think that might be helpful for those listening in. You can do this sitting or standing, and you begin by dropping your shoulders, letting your jaw relax. Now breathe in slowly through your nose and count to 4. Keep your shoulders down and allow your stomach to expand as you draw your breath in. Hold for a moment, and now release your breath slowly and fully as you count to 7. And repeat this for a couple of minutes or for as long as you feel like it. Again, that's breathing in through your nose with a count to 4, holding for a moment, and then releasing your breath slowly and fully as you count to 7. Pay attention to your breathing and make sure that you're comfortable. Don't strain beyond what feels easy and natural. If you can only comfortably extend or exhale to 6, that's fine. If you gradually extend to 8 or 9, that's fine too. The main thing is that your exhale is slightly longer than your inhalation and that it has your attention.
So there's that double benefit, isn't there, of working with the breath to stop that hyperventilation, that anxious breathing that sends the message to our mind and our nervous system that I'm stressed and all is not well. We're working with that. But also I think the mindful aspect of really drawing your attention to your breathing and the counting. Counting can really help as well. Counting your breaths, counting as you breathe in, pausing, counting as you breathe out, because it gives the mind something to lock onto. Sometimes if we're really anxious, in that heightened anxious state, we're trying to breathe. That doesn't always help because we can feel fixated on our breathing, or the mind starts to look at what we don't feel is comfortable. But counting gives the mind something to focus on while we help get ourselves back in balance. Super simple, and you can do it anywhere. Nobody will know you're doing it. It's a nice thing to practice several times a day. Sometimes when I sit down to read, I'll do that for a minute or two, or sometimes before meditating, or I might even just be having a conversation with a friend and I think, oh, let me just really switch into a very relaxed state, and I'll do it then. Again, super discreet. Nobody need know. You can do it in the car. You can do it waiting in line. You can do it anywhere. And the more we do it, the more we get used to doing it.
I like to do the long exhale before I go out in public. If I have to go into a big box store or have to be around a bunch of people, I like to do it before, during, and after. Sometimes just really be in the flow of that space and know that I'm looking after myself. I find that it helps me enjoy whatever it is I'm doing out in the world more than when I'm shallow breathing or trying to get from point A to point B quickly, or just really not being present, which kicks up my anxiety.
Yeah, it's a great maintenance practice, something good to do before you settle down to sleep. Yeah, before you head out for the day, before meals, to just be really calm and receive the nutrition of your meals in a relaxed state. There's that saying in Ayurveda that you can eat all the kale in the world, but if you're stressed, your body's not going to digest it. So a lot of these practices we're sharing today help digestion. They also help our relationships because they take us out of that frenetic state that anxiety can fire up in our minds and help us be more present with our loved ones and with anything we're doing.
Another technique is a grounding technique called the 5-4-3-2-1 technique. And again, we're back to numbers, aren't we?
Yeah, yeah.
This really helps your brain focus in on something other than the anxiety that you feel building. And this is simply a practice where you acknowledge 5 things that you can see around you, acknowledge 4 things you can touch around you, 3 things you can hear, 2 things that you can smell, and 1 thing that you can taste. And this grounding technique is so helpful because, again, you can do it anywhere. And not only is it calming, but it helps draw your mind away from those anxious thoughts. By actively noticing what's around you, everything changes because now you're in this space of, oh my goodness, right now I just saw a cardinal on the bird feeder. I saw that beautiful peony on my table. I saw a picture of my mom, whatever it might be. And you're just taking your mind away from being in that stuck place to a more healthy diversion.
And the other thing, of course, with anxiety is the stories we tell ourselves. We have a sensation in our body, we start to feel uneasy, and then the mind comes in with, what if it's this? What if it's that?
Mm.
And it's the story that really fires it up to the next level. So techniques like this help you be really present and mindful and locked in. It gives you something specific to do. Look at 5 things you can see. And it's a great practice to do when you're not anxious, to step outside in the morning or after meals. Step outside as close as you can get to nature and see what you can see what you can hear, see what you can smell. I love being in the woods after it's been raining or on cold, misty mornings. And techniques like this have helped me really tune in more to sights and sounds around me. I'm remembering now, last autumn, my daughter and I were going out, and next to our car is a little wooded area, which I've grown very fond of. And I could hear this soft rain sound, but I was standing outside and it wasn't raining. So I just put my head in the edge of the woods and I said, oh, it's the mist dripping on the trees. It was this beautiful sound. And the air smelt so good. And if I hadn't done practices like this over the years, I would have missed that. But it feels really healthy and very mindful.
And I like that you said that, Ananga, because this is a practice that can be done at any time. This doesn't have to be done when you're feeling sideways or jangly. This is something that you just make a part of what you do when you're out in nature,
Yeah.
inviting all of that beauty in, all of that that is a benefit.
It's got a lot of things in this simple technique, a lot of hand holding to put the mind in a better place. And it's a wonderful technique to do with children, whether they're anxious or not. But if they are anxious, if they're worried about school or something, and you get them used to a technique like this, it'll be so helpful for children's anxiety and also help them to get used to noticing things in nature. And, again, it's a fantastic antidote to feeling dissociated because it brings us that present awareness.
Mhm.
Such a simple thing, but really helpful.
And that goes hand in hand with practicing mindfulness as well. As we all know, anxiety and relaxation are completely opposite states at the opposite end of any spectrum. You won't experience one if you're feeling the other. And that's why mindfulness is such a perfect antidote to stress and anxiety, because you're drawing your attention away from whatever has you feeling anxious, any of those thoughts that are going round and round, and you're engaging in what's happening right now, this present moment awareness. And by doing that, you can tame and calm your mind and learn to enjoy feeling more relaxed because you know how to do it. You know how to come back and be like, oh, okay, wait a minute. What's happening right now in this moment? And how can I bring more of this mindfulness into my day to alleviate that stress from building?
Yeah. And there's some really simple ways to do it to start experiencing mindfulness. It doesn't have to be a formal practice. It can be simply being more aware of the things we do throughout the day. A key marker for anxiety is if we feel restless and we're finding it hard to pay attention, hard to sit still. That's how I know my anxiety's up. If I feel restless or fidgety, particularly if I've been unwell or in pain, that's the first marker for me that I'm a little out of balance. And anything we can do to help ourselves sit still or be present with what we're doing, just doing one thing at a time. When we multitask, we condition ourselves to do it more. That's what Ayurveda teaches is the more we practice diversions, the more we're going to go to those things like picking up our phone or doing things that aren't so helpful. So the easiest way to start practicing mindfulness is to give your full attention to the simple tasks you do throughout the day. You can do it while gardening.
I did that this morning.
Yeah.
To give your full attention to what you're doing in the garden, whether you're weeding, planting, watering, because not only are you giving it that sweetness of the present moment attention, but you're also doing what we mentioned earlier by just being out in nature. So now you're completely supported by that energy from the trees and the sun and all that's around you. Plus, you're taking care of something that you are looking after, that you really care for, that you want to bring to life, or that you want to clean up, or that you want to put some love into.
So multiple benefits again, nurturing, caring, grounding. As you were talking, I remembered a really funny story of one of my daughter's friends who was feeling very overwhelmed one day, and her father came running towards her with a big potted plant, and he said, "Stick your hands in the soil." Just held the plant in front of her and got her to stick her hands in the dirt. And I asked my daughter, "Did she say it helped?" And she's like, "Yeah." She was a bit surprised, but yeah, it helped. Grounding, anything grounding. But yeah, being outside. As soon as I go outside, I only have a very small garden, but as soon as I start tidying or caring for the plants, it helps my mind instantly.
Mm.
You can notice your hands performing tasks, bringing curiosity in, noticing temperatures, textures, colors. We can do this when we're showering. We can do it when we're washing dishes. We can do it when we're baking. We can do it if we're practicing craft activities, working with clay, anything that you're drawn to that's creative, to allow yourself to do it with full immersion. So it's not just our body that's doing it. We could be baking beautiful bread for our family with love and attention and care and really mindfully, or we could be doing it while we're fretting about a bill or a medical appointment or something else, a journey that feels overwhelming. So it's just bringing the mind back with that intention to be present. It's very simple.
Yeah. In this moment, I'm gardening. In this moment, I'm baking bread.
Yeah. Where am I? What am I doing? Very simple, But the more we practice it, the more natural it becomes and the less we'll feel anxious. The mind can only hold one thought at a time. So if it's got our attention with anxiety and we follow it, then we're snared. But if it tries to get our attention with anxiety and we can bring it mindfully back to something else, then we've helped ourselves greatly because we're going to draw it back. And the more gratitude we can bring in with that as well, the better.
I've also found that when I'm feeling extra restless, I need to move more. And I can bring that mindfulness into walking or into a walking meditation, if you will, where I know that I need to burn more energy. I know I need to move. And in moving, I can notice my neighbor put up a beautiful potted plant, or, oh, that's interesting. Somebody built a new gazebo, or, oh, look at that beautiful tree and on it goes while you're walking. Also, paying attention to your feet connecting with the earth and being mindful about every step you take as you gaze ahead, as you walk. When I walk down the block, I'm very present with what I'm doing and what's going on both around me and that my feet are actually on the concrete.
Yeah. Another thing that really helps is to just be mindful of your hydration. Dryness increases anxiety. That's one of the qualities that Ayurveda teaches provokes anxiety. We feel dry, so make sure you're drinking enough water. But Ayurveda especially recommends warm drinks for calming anxiety. So herbal teas can help with that. Chamomile tea, it's helpful for anxiety and improving sleep. Passion flower tea has an anxiety calming effect. It can help calm that restless feeling, nervousness, and anxiety. And lemon balm tea also. It has a very mild sedative effect and it can help improve sleep. And this is another area where we can be mindful as well. One of my favorite things to do is to hold a cup of warm tea with both hands and take a few breaths and smell the herbs and receive that hydration gratefully. So, another opportunity to pause, practice some breathing, and be mindful and be aware.
Mm. And I also recommend, if you can, grow lemon balm. It's so easy to grow and it takes off like crazy and it smells so good to just pinch a leaf off and, rub it between your fingers and smell it.
Beautiful. I always have it growing wherever I am. Yeah, I have a little pot of lemon balm.
I'm visiting my mom soon and I'm taking her a little pot of a little guy that popped up in another area in the garden and needs to be gifted. Yeah, hydration is huge, and I will also say, as somebody who drinks a lot of spring water, I drink so much water that I get teased about it. Make sure that you have a good bit of Celtic sea salt, even if it's just a grain. Put it on your tongue occasionally when you're drinking water, so that the water can carry the minerals to your cells, because sometimes if we drink tons and tons of water without that little bit of salt, it doesn't do anything but kind of just move through us. You can look into that. There's lots of different articles about having a little bit of a good quality salt when you drink a lot of water.
Ah, interesting. And we have some recommendations for tea blends. One of my favorite is Pukka Tea's Relax blend. That's something I like to drink late afternoon or early evening. It contains fennel seeds, licorice root, chamomile flower, cardamom seed, ginger, always good for anxiety, ginger and marshmallow root, and oat flowering tops. It's a really beautiful blend, slightly warming, very comforting. And another Pukka tea blend that I really love is called Love Tea, and that's chamomile flowers, lime flowers, marigold petals, licorice root, rose, and lavender flowers. And that was recommended to me by Sebastian Pole, who's the main man at Pukka Herbs at the Herbsmith. After I'd had a major surgery some years ago, he said drink lots of love tea for the shock of surgery and for bringing calm and peace to the body. So I'm very grateful to him for creating the blend and also giving me that tip. So very relaxing.
Yeah, I'm grateful to Sebastian for all of the pucka teas that I still like to drink. I don't drink as much tea in the summertime because of my pitta nature, and right now it's 90 degrees with 75% humidity, and the thought of drinking warm tea is not something that I want, but I have found that I can have some of the teas, whether they're my own or whether it's the pucka tea that we're talking about, and just have them cool, not over ice, but to brew them and then to let them cool, and then I'll enjoy it
Yeah.
much more than I would having something warm during the summer months. As we continue talking about hydration, please watch out for the amount of caffeine and sugar that you're taking into your body. Both caffeine and sugar can increase anxiety levels and lead to significant mood swings. You just don't really think about it if you're not aware of it. You're just doing your thing, right? You're having the cup of coffee, maybe followed by another. You might be somebody who occasionally has an energy drink. You might not realize that an afternoon coffee at 3 p.m. could cause an issue.
One of the things that is easily forgotten about caffeine is that it stays in the body for a long time. So we're often having an accumulative effect with it. If you drink a cup of coffee at 8 a.m. and another one at 10 or 11, the caffeine from the first coffee is still in your system. And then you're adding to it and adding to it. But what's most relevant for our listeners to note is that caffeine can spark anxiety episodes because it can make us feel like we're having an anxiety episode because it gives us that heightened state. It can make us rush to the bathroom. It can increase heart rate. It can make us feel unsettled or restless or trembly, shaky. And it's important to look out for areas where we can contact caffeine that we might not be aware of. For example, pain relief medications, some over the counter pharmacy medications have caffeine. It can be in different things that we're not always aware of. So then it can really increase in our system. And while caffeine might appear to give energy, it gives an edgy energy that can make us feel unsettled. And Ayurveda teaches that overstimulation of the nervous system is a leading cause of anxiety. So the very substance itself really isn't helping us. Tempting as it is and as accustomed to it as we are, it's not helpful.
Yeah, caffeine isn't helpful. Sugar isn't helpful. And that's why we look at all of these things in moderation. And I know that there are many people listening in who love to have coffee in the morning. I have coffee in the morning, 1 cup, and oftentimes I don't finish that cup. I enjoy it very much, and it doesn't seem to cause an issue for me. But if I were to drink multiple cups throughout the day, I know that that would be a different situation because I've done that and my body is not super happy about it. What we know about coffee is that it's addictive. It's an addictive stimulant. And not everybody wants to hear that, right? It's my coffee. But it's the relationship. I look at it like this. It's like the relationship that you have with tea, Ananga, and how much you love the different teas that you have in your cabinet. People have with coffee and the different coffees they can drink and how much they enjoy that. And so we're going to tell you the unpopular truth and at the same time invite you to enjoy what you enjoy, to just be mindful of how much you're bringing into your body. Because what do we know? It's a stimulant, it's addictive, it's drying in nature, which makes it particularly disruptive for Vata body types. And that's the type most prone to anxiety.
Yeah, Ayurveda teaches that coffee provokes all three Ayurvedic body types. So I realize we've mentioned this word a few times this episode. If you're new to listening to us, Ayurveda is India's ancient science of life. I think most people have heard of it these days. So coffee provokes all three Ayurvedic body types, and it's considered a cause in the development of insomnia, adrenal exhaustion, and some fatigue syndromes and anxiety. Some Ayurvedic teachers describe getting energy from coffee as being similar to borrowing money on a credit card. It might give that instant, money, instant energy, but it comes at a high cost that has to be paid back. Once we get used to using coffee to boost energy, we get that stronger desire to continue doing it, and then we feel tired when we don't have it. So we end up in this cycle, which can put us in an energy debt. And we know when we're attached to something because we'll make excuses for it. And we start talking about, oh, I couldn't live without my coffee. It's like then you're in a relationship with something. We start justifying it or saying what it does for us, or we're uncomfortable about reducing it. If you're going to reduce coffee or caffeine in other forms, Ayurveda recommends doing it gradually, not to do it suddenly. We can get headaches and withdrawal symptoms if we do it suddenly. It can be quite a shock to the body. So to gradually cut back and look for alternatives. One alternative that I really like is chicory coffee. And sometimes I'll add different spices to that, like cinnamon or ginger. I just had a cup this morning with those spices added, and to me, that's a real cup of comfort. So to experiment with alternatives can be helpful.
And then, of course, eating regular, balanced meals as much as possible to, again, stable your blood sugar levels, because this is what you need for mood stability and anxiety management. Don't skip meals. Try to be in a space of choosing really nourishing meals and eat those at regular times. Eat those meals at regular times whenever you can. Please be mindful of the food that you're bringing into your body, the amount of sugar and the amount of caffeine, and know that things are only going to get better the more you pay attention to these choices. Thanks for listening. We hope that you found these self-care tips for anxiety relief helpful. And if you'd like to do even more to take care of anxiety building, we have a special offer on our Freedom from Anxiety Attacks online course. You can save 30% off the course through the end of June at anxietyslayeracademy.com. Take the first step towards freedom from anxiety with the coupon code FREEDOM. And again, you'll save 30% through the end of June. Get the course at anxietyslayeracademy.com.